Hello, welcome. My name's Mike.
And I'm Nick.
And welcome to Doesn't Make the Cut, an Indigenous podcast.
This particular series, we are interviewing Indigenous female-identified filmmakers. We talk about their journey as Indigenous filmmakers and their ongoing career in the industry.
Thank you for tuning in and enjoy.
So I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the ancestral and traditional territories of our Coast Salish relatives. We raise our hands for having us live, work, and play in their traditional territories. We really thank them, as we are not originally from these lands, and to being able to be here is a huge honor. And we definitely send out our love and our prayers to all of our Coast Salish relatives.
So recently some really disturbing news did happen where 215 children were found in Kamloops, and the sad part is that's just scratching the surface. There's unfortunately more out there, and they didn't get to go home, and that's genuinely sad.
And our hearts go out to all those families, all those children that couldn't make it home, and just to know that it's definitely heavy on our hearts. Our final entry in this series is Doreen Manuel, a true advocate and pioneer to Indigenous content. Doreen is currently the director of the BOSA Film Center at Capilano University. She formerly was the program coordinator of the Indigenous Digital Filmmaking Program.
Doreen is a producer, director, mentor at heart. Doreen talks about her rich history from experiencing trauma, obtaining her education, and persevering, breaking the stereotypes of the modern Indigenous peoples.
Both Mike and I have known you for quite some time. And we know that you're a huge advocate for evolving Indigenous content, Indigenous cinema, to the uninitiated. Can you just explain why it's so important to have that?
It's so important for Indigenous people to be involved in the film industry because the media really influences everything. It influences the way people see us, and it influences how we see ourselves. And we've been denied access for so long, because when you look at the Canadian film history, which started in the late 1800s, back then we were confined by law to stay on the reservation. We had no way to have access to that industry. And then as time evolved and we were allowed to leave the reserves, mass majority of our children were locked away in residential schools. They were ripped from the loving arms of their families. So when the children are removed, the parents fall into depression. So you have whole generations of depressed older people and imprisoned young people. And this happened for generations. And so by the time we were finally able to have more access to the industry is now. When the National Film Board started that film program for Indigenous people, I forget what year that was, but it wasn't that long ago. And they ran one round of it only, just for one little group of people, and then they never ran it again. The Indigenous film program that both of you graduated from is only 20 years old. That's not very old. And, on average, we would have like 20 students per year. So 20 times 20, that's how many students have graduated. That's not that many when you look at how many thousands and thousands and thousands of people are working in the film industry today in Canada or even just in BC. So our film program is the only one in Canada up until recently. Shirley Chichu opened one in Ontario, and the NSI kind of runs some lightweight programming for documentary. There isn't a lot of training availability out there. And when you look at things like the reason why we should be involved is that We need a mechanism for promoting our political initiatives. And we have many political initiatives besides land claims, which is one of our most important political initiatives. We have the murdered missing women. We have, clean drinking water demands from all across Canada. There are so many of those kind of initiatives. And then there's the business initiatives, like this podcast of yours, like, the tourism that people are running in different communities across Canada, the film, like I run a film production. We need to have access to media to be able to talk about what we're doing in the arts. And then it's so vitally important to use it for language and cultural preservation. So, and many people know that our culture is dying because of the residential school. So many people didn't learn their ways. And there are so few teachers like your dad, Mike, is a teacher and always sharing culture. There are so few people who even have their culture to be able to share it in that way. It's so sad for the ones who don't have it, because, all the years that I trained and then I taught life skills. I worked with such a variety of different people. I worked with women escaping violent relationships who had lost their children forever to social services. And I remember the one most impactful statement I heard from one of them. I asked my class at that time, why are you here? Why have you come here to take this class with me? And one woman said, because she had lost her children forever to the social services. And she has no way of getting them back. But by the time they become of age, she wants to be the kind of person worth finding if they come to look for her. That really touched my heart. It's the one statement I just remember forever, because after she said that, I so desperately wanted to be everything I could be to help them as much as I could. And really her saying that helped push me in my healing journey. Because one thing that a lot of people understand about the healing journey is you can only take people as far as you've gone yourself. You can't take them beyond that because you don't know. You don't know what's over there. So you have to heal as much as you can heal in order to help people. So I started going to counseling a lot. I started taking psychology and sociology at nighttime. I'd work all day and I'd go to school and study because I desperately wanted to help those women, because I could see the pain in their eyes. And when I was working with heroin addicts in the downtown east side, again, I so desperately wanted to help them. All of our people across Canada, they look at a television set and they adopt the identity that's in that television set. And if what they're watching is old Westerns that tell them that they're stupid, they're no good for nothing, they're savages. If they're watching any kind of films, cartoons even, are all giving them negative messaging about Indigenous people. And we desperately need to get inside that television set to teach them something different, because without fail, the entire reason that I was able to help those people is because I was able to role model my own behavior of not drinking or drugging, and of knowing my culture, and of being proud, and of looking Indigenous and fighting that world. Like when you look Indigenous, it's a harder world for you. And they could see me doing it, and so they would believe in themselves and believe that if I could do it, they could do it. And but the one thing that I taught them that turned their lives around was that I taught them about their culture, their history, their heritage. Like the same classes that I taught you guys, in history. I taught them those sort of things. But even more than that, I would show them so many different things about their actual nationhoods, because I had a lot more time with them to teach those subjects than I had when I was teaching in university. And without fail, that was the one thing I would see them coming to life, and then really like eating it up and really looking for it and really growing. And I there's been so many times that people have come up to me and told me that if it wasn't for me and those things that I taught them, that they would not be alive today. Because, we have such a hard life, a lot of us, growing up, and, parents drinking or parents absent and raising ourselves. And it's a tough life for a lot of young people. But it doesn't have to be like that for the rest of their lives. They can help themselves. And I saw that time and time again. So there's just so many important reasons, and it gives those young people a voice. You know, I watched Duncan McHugh and his dad, Harvey McHugh. They ran a film course for young people. They sent out 11 editing and camera units across Canada to 11 completely different Indigenous communities. And what the only instruction they gave was give the camera to the youth, tell them to film what it's like to be a youth in their community. And those kids did that. Kids that were suicidal, that had given up on life, got a camera in their hands. And when they came in, they flew in to watch the footage because they made a lot of footage, and they sent it all to Duncan. Duncan sat down with the CBC editor and they edited them into little films. And when those kids flew in from all parts of Canada to Richmond to have the big screening, they saw their work up there on the screen and they realized that they have power. Before that, they had no power, but they realized the power of the camera, the power of media. And they realized they, no matter where they are in Canada, in the middle of nowhere, have a voice. And it made all the difference to those kids. When I saw that, plus I used to go a lot to youth fairs and teach young Indigenous people film. I would bring IDF graduates and students with me, and we would go to youth fairs and we'd bring the IDF cameras and we'd hand them out to the kids and they would go off and film. When I watched how it empowered them, you know, I just realized how important that camera was to all of our people, not just the young people, because I see it happening with other people of all ages that come into the IDF program, and they get that camera in their hands. They learn how to edit, and they realize that there are so many different ways to get your work out there, like this podcast. And I've been watching a lot of TikToks lately. There's a lot of really powerful TikToks, and they're educating people in that 1 minute at a time that you give somebody, you're giving them teachings. And, you know, festivals and getting on television. There's a lot of different ways, and it's all important.
It really was a liberating feeling, shooting your own shorts and being creative, and, you know, like even kids in TikTok, you know, you're absolutely right. And we're just trying to run to catch up. And that being said, I did want to bounce off of what you're talking about in IDF. What would be your sage advice to aspiring Indigenous filmmakers? What would you say to them, to the viewers who may be interested in IDF right now?
Well, it's a tough world, the film world, getting into the film world. The unions are tough to get into. I'm doing battle with the unions right now. I have been for a little while because I've been lobbying for a number of changes within the film industry. There's a number of us working on this issue, and we're working hard, and we're fighting and battling hard, so change will come. But at this particular time, it's pretty tough. I think it's important to choose a couple of different areas that you're interested in, not just one, and train really hard in those areas. Like camera is the hardest place to get into, but the art department is the easiest. So, you know, something in props or set design, if you're coming to it with a little bit of construction, that's awesome, because that skill can be adapted into the art department because you're building sets. If you've ever done any kind of artwork at all, that's helpful to get into the art department. If you've painted or sculpted or anything, you're good with your hands, and a lot of Indigenous people are, then breaking in, having that one avenue, but also choosing something that is truly of interest to you is really important. Like if it is camera, or if it is lighting, or it's the paperwork part of it, then dive in feet first and learn everything that you can about it. Make a lot of connections, get out of, if you're shy, try to get out of that and be talkative and build a base of connections, and find a way to have an income, because sometimes when you're breaking in, you have to do a little bit of free work, and you have to do a little bit of work where you're making less pay. And Vancouver is a tough place to live because it's expensive here. And this is where the film school is, and this is where the film industry is. So being a little bit savvy about it, and when you're in school, applying for a lot of bursaries so that you can buy the equipment that you need, and manage your money well. But I think that of the people who've gone through the program, the ones that were the most passionate and really knew they wanted it are the ones that are succeeding today, because they just kept trying everything, like applying for money, jumping on shows, and just constantly trying to work on any kind of a show to have the income coming in, but also to be building up your resume. But it doesn't have to just be that. Like I said before, there's other things to do, like corporate video. You get paid $1,000 per edited minute. That's the starting rate. And then you go up from there. So you can approach all kinds of Indigenous organizations and pitch to them that you can make a teaching video for them, educational video, or an marketing video for them. I did that for a long time. And there's also RFPs, like there's one out for housing right now. If you keep an eye on government RFPs, you can make corporate video for like BC Housing or the Variety Club, or there's all these big organizations now that indigenization and decolonization and reconciliation is such a big thing. A lot of people are making videos that have different themes around those subjects. And it pays well. There's a lot of universities too that have little budgets for making films. And there's a lot of other places that you can work while you're trying to break in. Like if you're a writer, but you need to have a job. I mean, there's the equipment houses like Sims or William F. White's. William F. White's also has, they bought parallel locations, so they also have an office in locations services. And then there's a lot of other production houses around town, like Lauren Lapham, and there's a lot of editing houses. There's a lot of work here. You just have to be creative and open your mind about the kind of work that you're willing to do.
Definitely. Thank you. Going to, talking about, for yourself, you have your master's degree. What was how was the process of receiving that? And then what would you say to other Indigenous filmmakers who might possibly be considering of going to that level of education under film?
Yeah. Well, first off, it took me 20 years to get a bachelor's degree because of all the trauma that I had been through as a young person. I had this learning block in front of me. And I actually didn't know that I had a learning block. I thought I was stupid. And it was an easy thing to think when everybody told me I was stupid when I was a kid. Residential school. I was in residential school. And then when I went into public school, all the other kids were always calling me stupid. And so when I didn't do well in school, I assumed I was stupid. But I had met this old Yaqui Indian. He had just gotten his PhD and he was 65. And he kept telling me, it's never too late. Just keep going. And I've realized for the first time in my life, well, I'm not stupid. So then I started, taking what I knew about psychology and examining more of my my brain, my way of thinking, my way of learning. And that's when I realized, wow, I have a learning block, and it's trauma. It's sitting on me all the time, so much so that I can't think, I can't see, I can't feel through it. So little gets filtered through. So then I started going to counseling a lot, and with healing, the block has gotten smaller and smaller. It's thin now. It's still there. I still feel it. Sometimes when I get really triggered, I kind of shut down a little bit, and I have a hard time learning when I'm in that state. And then I have to realize, oh, I was just triggered. Okay, well, what triggered me? And I have to kind of work through that. process. So knowing yourself and being willing to know yourself and being able to work with your own wellness really helps you to succeed. So anyways, it took me 20 years to get that bachelor's degree. But once I got that, I came back to school and I took the film program, the same film program both of you graduated from. I took it and went off to work in the industry for a while, came back to run the program. And at CapU, at any university, they want you to have a master's. And really, that's the only reason I went on to a master's. Otherwise, I always think, a degree is supposed to get you a job. I already had a job. I'm already really employable. So I felt like I didn't really need the letters, but the university required me to have the letters. But I loved taking my master's degree program because it's so different from your bachelor's degree. Your bachelor's degree, you're getting all these assignments and you're working like a dog trying to get through them. And it's like you're cramming all this knowledge in your head so you can write a test. You write that test and then you got to dump as much of that out of your head and cram all this stuff in your head because you got to write that test. You're going from test to test. And by the time you get to the end, who knows how much left you have in your head, because a lot of it's gone because you were just like the whole time, because the band funds you for 4 years to get a BA and you have to work like heck to get it within those years. And then you run out of funding if you don't get it within 4 to 5 years. So you have to work like that. It's better if you can just take a few courses and really learn and enjoy it. In a master's degree, you still have to take the full load. You still have to take 4 classes, but they treat you different. You are deciding what your assignments are. You are the leader of your education. They give you a framework, but you have a lot more flexibility. They don't give you like, this is what you're going to write on it. It's so narrow that you can't even put your own creativity in it. And then it's so narrow as far as references. It has to come out of textbooks. Whereas in a master's degree, you can rationalize that you have to interview these elders, that's where the real knowledge is. You can build your program out better and easier that way. And if you do it in film, but even if you don't do it in film, you can do it in a wide range of disciplines will now allow you to make a film as your end result. You still have to write a document to go with the film. But when you take film at UBC, that document can be the production binder, the production Bible that you used to make the film. My first film that I actually got to make was with Crazy Eights. I was on like U Equals Us TV show, Creative Native TV show, First Nations, First Talk TV show. I was a news reporter for KBOS. So I was working for other people's stories, not my own. And so when I got my master's degree, I was able to just give that time to myself and make my own creations. And it really helped me grow as an artist. So I think that the master's degree is, is it useful? It really is, because, you might want to be a teacher at a university someday.
We are out of time.
Oh, that was quick.
Yeah. It was 15 to 20 minutes is our max. So, yeah, unfortunately. Otherwise, we'd be here all day talking, which I would love. I would genuinely love that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
We're really excited and very, very happy that we were able to receive the grant for this. Is huge. And, we definitely see this being a multi, series thing, because we want to do more interviews. We want to bring on more guests and, talking all about Indigenous media, Indigenous film, documentaries, the whole works of not just having directors and actors, but just having everyone who comes into the film industry, and because everyone has a word and everyone has a saying. So yeah, we definitely see this being a long-term thing, and would love to have you on again for a longer talk if you're open to that.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And so with that, we actually have a gift for you.
Wow.
This is a canvas painting done by my dad, Mike Dangeli. And this one's called The Viewpoints of the Narrative.
Wow.
We'd like to just publicly thank you for taking time out of your day, and we really appreciate all the work that you've done for us, especially graduating from the IDF program, and so we're give that for you. So we'll
thank you.
Send it off to you.
Okay, thanks very much.
Well, if you're here now and you watched through all the episodes, once again, truly thank you. It's basically over an hour, and that is huge. That's a lot of time that you put into our humble little podcast. So thank you. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely want to, if you're watching, through the visual platform, I want to definitely raise my hands to our guests. I want to thank all of our viewers as well, and as Mike was saying, listening to our podcast. Thank you, everyone. This doesn't make the cut. A huge thank you to Telus Storyhive